and today is no exception, and it is my very great pleasure to introduce today the founder and CEO of Fusion Markets. It's a very good evening, in my case, to Phil Horner. G'day, Phil.
G'day, how you going?
Mate, hey, having a wonderful time.
Oh, that's great. Well, nothing pleases me more than seeing the Fusion Markets platform up there.
Oh, I put that up there. My mistake. Damn.
Oh, mate. Yeah, it's still humbling nonetheless.
I have to say, Phil, Ash here, by the way. Good to meet you, buddy. I have to say, Jeff started using this yesterday, and he was waxing lyrical about it. He loves it. He's
fantastic.
Hang on, mate. We're talking to a broker here, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Ease off a little bit.
Exactly. Well, if we don't get too many compliments, unfortunately, in the broking game, it's quite a lot of yelling at, and we just take that in our stride. So
you got a fan. You've got a fan.
Mate, if you answer the next questions in the right manner, then I'm sure I'll give you a kudos at the end of them.
Perfect.
Mate, of course, you're really no stranger to a lot of us, because, in particular in the ATW family, because of the time you spent at previous brokers. For those of you, or for those of you in the room who aren't familiar with Phil and are a stranger to him, I'm going to ask him now to tell us what really is the Phil Horner story, or the road to Fusion Markets, and how that looks. What does that actually look like, mate? How did you get there?
Yeah, so it starts. How do you sort of boil down 11 years into a couple of sentences? But started 2009 at a little company called Actionstowealth. It was actually known by a different name at the time. 6 people.
Pardon my interruption, but that seems like a very timely exit at the moment. They're not in a real good space, are they?
No, exactly. I kind of come to that in a moment as well, because
yeah, sure.
Yeah, so early 2009, sort of 6-7 people. I had I traded stocks before. I had no idea what I was doing in the markets, and got excited by trading in the early parts. And if you cast your mind back to 2009, that was the pretty much the low of the stock market. And I remember a lot of people telling me at the time, like, why the hell would you go into financial markets? The world's ending. What a terrible career choice. And I always try and do something a little bit different. And if people tell me I can't do something, that's something that I excel at.
Sounds like a familiar thing. Yep, good.
Yep, and so actually grew. One of the first MT4 brokers in Australia, and had a pretty good product offering. I learned a lot from working there, and was there for about five or 6 years. And 2014 was kind of the year that I'd left, and there was a volatility drought, and actually almost went through some pain during that period. When volatility dries up for brokers, it's pretty hazardous for them, particularly because they've got generally high cost bases and they can't make money. So I kind of went through a bit of a difficult period there at the end of Axie, and then I went through all this personal stress, and then I was going to move to London, and then all of a sudden this job at a company called Pepperstone came up in Melbourne. So
you were saved the ultimate worst decision of your life, going to London.
Pretty much, yeah, exactly. Well, I haven't looked back. I still want to live in London for one point in my life. I keep telling my wife it's got to be done at some point, maybe for a summer. But
I think so.
Here's the place. There's the time to come to the UK. Yeah, the summers are brilliant, actually, in the UK, but the winters are grim.
You'll laugh at this. I seem to never make it to London in the summer. I'm always there in the winter, especially January. It just seems to be the time that I end up there, and it's very dark and very cold. But I kind of like it because you just don't get to here in Melbourne or really Australia. So it's a nice change. But that probably seems crazy to you. But so 2015 moved to Melbourne to become general manager of Pepperstone. And I'm not sure if you know the Pepperstone story, but a couple of young guys, Owen and Joe, and they taught me a lot. Very young guys, and sort of handed the keys to me at a pretty early point in time, and they sort of took a step back from the business. And at that point, I always had wanted to start a broker, and one of the reasons for moving to Melbourne is I thought Pepperstone were the best at the time, and I thought that's the best place that you could learn and potentially take my skills back to Sydney and start a broker. And then as life would have it, you get pretty comfortable and you get to a CEO position, and then it all starts to go really well, and then you forget about your sort of your dream in the back of your head. And then the universe sort of gives you this big sign, and Pepperstone sold a bit of their business to private equity, and a bit of a business change there and a strategy change. And so I decided to part ways in the end of 2017, and then spent a year on a gardening leave where I couldn't work, and
whoa, gardening leave.
Gardening leave, yeah, it's a thing. It's very common in finance. It's where they sort of pay you to sit on your backside for a year, as long as you don't work in the industry. So
nice.
So I spent.
The reason's obviously not nice, but yeah.
No, exactly. Well, as literally the day after I left Pepperstone, we found out that we were pregnant and having a baby boy, and at the same time you kind of go, shit, how am I going to afford that? Versus, but at the same time going, oh well, I'll get to be around to be a full-time dad for a little bit. So, good things happen, and the universe works for you. And
yeah.
I couldn't work during that period of time, but in my head, I was thinking of, all over the years, basically, I wanted to start a broker. And, I think the universe gives you these signs to do what you love, and you just got to sort of open your eyes and look at what was probably a terrible time to look at the good side and make something of it. So, yeah, Fusion's been around now for 8 or 9 months trading live, and we spent a bit longer than that sort of building the technology.
I can imagine.
Yeah, and so it's been great ever since. So it's really exceeded way past where I thought we would be at this point in time, and we can come on to the reasons for that. But that's 11 years in God, how many minutes?
Yeah, that's amazing, mate. Can I just ask a quick question of what you just were talking about before? What you were saying about volatility and the fact that you had a volatility glut, effectively, which affected the AxiTrader profit line.
Yeah.
As traders, we also need volatility.
Yeah.
But what I find interesting is the link between what you were saying and the link between where traders need it as well. I mean, because it would suggest that with a lack of volatility and a broker doing fairly badly, then that would suggest that some of the traders might have been doing a bit better than they should have been.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think look at the sort of the dangerous times in the markets is just look at Euro last year, right? I mean, it was basically not moving for a large period of time. FX volatility at sort of 5-6 year lows, and nothing really moving. And I know a lot of brokers are sort of not struggling, but the European regulations and the lowering of leverage has certainly affected quite a few brokers. And I think it's the easy days of making money as a broker are over, to be honest with you. And a lot of people, when I was on my break, said, you should leave the industry, mate. Like this thing's not going to be what it was, and that's music to my ears. Again, I love doing what people, if the crowd's going this way, then you should go the other way. That's how I work as a trader too. I think
actually sounds like our type of guy, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Yeah, but were people just not trading at that time? Was that the problem? If was because as I say, as a trader, you need volatility to kind of get opportunity. So does that mean people just weren't trading, or were they just holding positions?
It's really a bit of both. Like it's more just sort of a chipping away, because people are just sort of trading the range. It's kind of up here, down there, and up here, and you really need sort of those big moves for people to do, to start taking the market a little bit with a bit more risk, and sort of increasing the volume a little bit. So volume dries up. It's most of the time. It's kind of to be honest, in some ways it reminds me a little bit of the mining industry. You sort of the brokers are a bit like the miners, and they only spend in the good times, and then they kind of get caught with their pants down when commodity prices are down, and then the cycle keeps repeating. So I see a lot of similarities between their industry and the sort of the boom bust cycle that you see out of brokers, and I know a lot of brokers are having a bit of trouble this over the last sort of year or so, combining ESMA and the leverage changes and the lack of volatility. But 2020 has been great so far in terms of volatility.
Yeah.
Euro's moving, gold's moving. There's plenty on.
Would you say that the birth of the way that people are now mining for news, i.e., social media, and the instantaneous nature of getting news and data, helps with the fact that we are seeing a pickup in volatility and movements in markets?
I don't know. Like it's because there was things that were moving last year in some ways, but this year's sort of drummed home for me at least, and obviously everyone will have a different experience. But like pound obviously moved a lot last year, but it really just becomes how big is the euro, and like the euro move from say like breaking 110 has been just the interest. The amount of accounts open, the volume has just gone like through the roof, and it just shows how powerful euro dollar is because people would just gobble it up.
I know some traders that have been pretty badly beaten up by the way the euro's moved.
Yes, absolutely. Because if everything if it keeps going in a range for like in and out, and then all of a sudden it breaks that, people it kind of breaks people's psyche, and they go, how can this happen? And they keep fighting it. Similar to Aussie. I mean, I can't talk. I'm stuck in a long on Aussie dollar, thinking she's going to come back, but could be very wrong here because it was ranging, and then I'm looking at it and I'm going, the corona thing isn't so bad, and then the market can give you a bloody nose, can't it? So
this is the thing. So you're like every other trader that sits there and almost convinces yourself that whatever news and data is released actually meets your criteria.
Confirmation bias. Yeah, exactly. I do a lot of writing for on that sort of the topic of psychology, because I don't think it's covered enough for traders, because confirmation bias is such a huge one. And, you're always looking for the headlines of things that support your point of view. And I think that's, it's so dangerous. And where I normally think I'm contrarian, I've just been completely smashed into a trap on Aussie. And you've also got home country bias as well. I'm kind of like, come on, Aussie, like it'll go back up. But it's well, you never know how it's going to turn out, but it's not going well so far.
Yeah, I got over that one years ago. That's why I moved to Tasmania, mate. Simple as that.
Exactly. That's not part of Australia.
and proud of it.
Exactly.
Mate, let's come back to your products. I'll bring you back there for a second. In fact, we'll probably talk about that for a little bit now. Your mission statement or your mantra, which I like very much.
I can tell you it's a sort of drummed into my head. So it's our vision is to provide access to the world's markets easier, faster, and a lower cost than what exists in the market today. So that's kind of.
Hang on. There's more. We aren't just satisfied with being a low cost provider. We want to permanently change traders' expectations of their broker.
Yes.
How's that vision tracking? And I'm one of those people you're talking about.
Yep.
And what in real terms does it actually mean to your customers?
Yeah, for sure. So step one is when we launch is to really just get the basics right. So we know anyone can just be a low cost place to trade. Tomorrow, brokers in their desperation might just drop the commissions to zero. I mean, look at stock trading in the US, right? Everything's at zero. So there's no edge in just being the cheapest place to trade. So that's kind of the step one. Step two is to make sure you've got really strong incentivization with your team around client satisfaction and solving queries really fast and using technology as much as you can and having the hindsight now to build something from scratch and seeing what's worked and what hasn't worked in sort of 11 years in the market at other places gives you a bit of a leg up as to what works. So in terms of how it's tracking, like we're growing by triple digits each month and we haven't spent really anything on marketing. And it's mostly been word of mouth. I mean, I've been really surprised by all sorts of places all around the world, just opening accounts, and you kind of just go, wow. Obviously the model that we have, like trying to save people and trying to be the world's lowest cost broker, it does resonate. And I think the main difference from, running a broker from one to the next is the clients are a lot stickier because there's so much of an element of switching between MT4 brokers. One goes here, then the next goes here. You're always looking for sort of a cheaper place to go to. And that's been good for us is that people see the commission and go, yeah, well, $4.50 versus $7.50. Why would I trade? Why would I pay $3 more? So it's still early days, and we're nowhere near where I think we're capable of. But from here, we're spending sort of the majority of our money on developing, cooler tools for our client portal. So things like an economic calendar is coming soon, new funding methods. We want to try and do a like trading analytics part so that people can track their performance a little better. So there's lots of stuff that we're working on right now that by the end of 2020 I think we'll have a really good offering for people and not just be the cheapest broker, if that makes sense.
I understand, and to be absolutely fair, most brokers actually will advertise that they're the cheapest on the planet or whatever, and they can do the best deals, etc., etc.
Exactly.
From a trader's point of view, and I consider myself to be one, that really isn't what I'm looking for. What I'm really looking for is execution, and Ash spoke about it before, and I will say something after you've spoken. How do you rate your own execution?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I'm really pleased to hear that that's an important thing for you. So one of the things that I didn't really mention is that I'm the face of Fusion, obviously, but the other owner of Fusion, the other 50%, is an institutional broker called Glen Eagle Securities. And what that does is gives us a really tremendous opportunity, because most brokers are just using the same recycled liquidity providers. So that's why they have the similar spreads and execution. I know two very large Australian brokers who use the exact same liquidity provider. So you're going to get a very similar price, aren't you? And you're going to get the same slippage because, everyone's trying to drive a car through the tunnel at the same time.
Yep.
And, there's a large Australian broker who you probably know that's infamous for showing, such tight prices, 0.0 on everything, and appearing to be really tight. But that price is borderline false advertising, because it's only good for up to half a lot or one standard lot.
You're
of
very
trading.
kind with borderline, mate. You're very kind.
Yes, exactly. Well, I don't believe in slagging off the competition, but we're catering to a more sophisticated trader. We don't spend too much time on holding people's hand through the markets per se, because most of our clients, that they've been through the markets before. They know MT4, they know it's about good pricing, they know it's about execution. So that's one thing that we're slightly different. So just coming back to that point, our pricing uses what's called like a top of book price. So instead of one lot of trading, it's between 10 and 20 lots. So 1 to 2 million of notional value. So that means if you're ready to click buy or sell right now, what you see is what you get. So there's no deep slippage of one lot, and the other 9 lots are getting slipped at, God knows what price. So that's more to cater for our client base right now, and not having to deal with constant complaints of slippage, because I know that's it's a very common complaint. But that particular provider.
I've got a journal of them if you want to see them.
Yes, exactly. Well, I'm hoping so far your journal's showing very positive results. And
mate, as I said before, I placed 2 trades on your platform yesterday. Both were executed to the 0.01 of a pip. So awesome. You can't do better than that.
Good.
Both winners, of course.
Of course. No losers here.
So, yes, more than happy. If that continues to be the case, mate, you've got a friend in me.
Awesome. Thank you.
More than welcome. Mate, I guess a couple of more questions, and I know we've run out of time, as we always do, because we just get into conversations that are so interesting.
Yeah.
And I hope the people that are listening are also interested in such things. One of the points, and Ash brought this up, and I think it's very valid, a lot of offers from brokers are really limited in the instruments that they do offer to trade. And one of the questions, and I guess we've all asked this to a certain degree over the years, the Chinese Yuan, why isn't that on offer for any broker that I've ever seen anyway, as a trading option? And what, in your case, if any, are you going to offer outside of what is considered, I guess, to be the norm? In other words, the majors, the minors, and maybe,
So in terms of the Chinese Yuan, so we do offer it. It's just under USD CNH, which is the offshore yuan. So the reason the reason why is very few trade it. The spreads still aren't amazing. We're not at sort of euro dollar levels of 0.0 all the time. So that's probably why a lot of others don't offer it.
Is the pegging an issue with that?
Correct.
Yeah. So
yeah, and like one I don't know if you remember, maybe it was like 2014 or 2015. I remember the one do devaluation in it was August 2015 because it was a really, really huge day, and all of a sudden they just changed the way that they sort of peg the yuan, and it was just free for all. And I think people just kind of got quite scared about that, and they don't want to be caught against the Chinese government and sort of the whims of that. And I think you also saw a bit of that with the trade war, didn't you? Because it was allowed to slip below 7, and it's a one-way bet depending on how the Chinese government want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you don't bet against the Fed, you don't bet against the PBOC. So that's probably why. And it's just not there yet. It's not a convertibility, and I think there's a reason why all of the central banks they don't hold too much of it. It's starting to get more popular in terms of as a global currency, but it's nowhere near the sort of convertibility or the liquidity of your euros or your yens or especially your dollars. So 10 years maybe. It's we don't get too much of a macroeconomic picture, but early days.
Just so everybody understands that's listening, that the at 9:15, I believe it is, every morning, that the yuan is recalibrated to within a range within the dollar, and that is one of the reasons that you just don't get the volatility in something like that. I don't know why anybody would want to trade it, to be honest, even if the option was there.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, we've got it on the platform.
Why'd you ask the question then?
that was somebody else, wasn't it? I'm sure somebody posted that last week, so we had to ask it.
Oh, is that what it was? Right. Yeah. Okay, got it.
Well, hopefully that listener is here this week, and we've answered their dying question.
Yeah.
Did we get to, mate? And I'm sorry, I had to tune out there for about 2 seconds. And Ash, thanks for taking over. Did we get to, outside of the minors and majors, what have you got on offer for us in terms of instruments that we probably haven't been exposed to before?
I think we've got quite a few unique products in a lot of the metals. So copper, zinc, aluminium, a few things like that. There's not we've got a lot of the scandies, but to be honest, it's and like any sort of market, it's like a power law. So you've got 100 products and only 20 of them ever really get traded, and that's just the way that it is, and that's partly due to liquidity, and that's partly just due to the wealth of information around the sort of the big G10 currencies and how much more available they are. So I mean, there's 120 different products on the platform, mostly currencies, usual indices, and we're hoping to launch the next products is probably going to be a large range of US and UK CFDs shares, I think, from here. So.
Oh, brilliant! Oh, I look forward to that.
Okay, great.
And also cryptos.
Sorry, yes, you go.
Cryptos you got,
yeah,
right?
That's I was just going to say.
Got cryptos, yeah. The difference with cryptos, and people get quite upset about it. The leverage isn't the same, so it's 1 to 2 leverage, so it's okay. It's double what you get in an exchange, but at the same time, it's it's the sort of the crypto days of 50 to 1. I know a lot of brokers were offering during that the crypto phase of 2017.
Are they still here?
No, I mean, like plus 500. I know we're one of the biggest cryptos, and I think they had a pretty tough year that year because crypto has just kept going up and up and up. And I think a lot of brokers were sort of trying to market make on that stuff and just got absolutely pummeled. So everyone's a bit once bitten, twice shy, and doesn't give out the leverage that they used to, which is just madness. I mean, 50 to 1 on Bitcoin at those times was just, I remember at Pepperstone, there was, there was just so much interest. People. The guy selling bringing in water jugs to the office was asking if we do crypto, and it's just it was just such a mania, wasn't it? So
I mean, it's still, and I can see the Jeff and I we look at cryptos in the show, but we don't really trade it. But I can see the appeal completely.
Absolutely.
amazing volatility with stuff like that, and it continues to be the case. And I guess because it's not heavily traded yet, relatively speaking.
Yeah, that's right. I think it'll have its day. I think it's still trying to find its feet. I mean, it gets the odd interest here and there. Like if it, I think it's around 10,000 or something now, and people are sort of interested again because the news flashes up. But I mean, right now the biggest traded product by a long mile is gold. I mean, just every man and his dog's coming in to trade gold at the moment. It's just unbelievable. I think yesterday's open on gold, I'm sure you watched it, was just insane.
Gosh, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be touching it up here personally. It's way overcooked, isn't it? And it's no doubt about it. It's got potential to go to maybe 1720 without too many problems if Corona continues. But anything flips around with something like that, I think this will come down pretty quick.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, the funny thing is, it was going up before Corona, wasn't it? So
it was.
This is just puts a rocket under it, and no one can. I love that no one can really explain what the heck's going on. Maybe one day it's Corona, the next day it's inflation, the next day it's bombs.
Yeah.
No one. If everyone's saying that, then no one has a clue.
Yeah.
Phil, I've got to say to date, I love your work, mate. But
Thank you very much.
Here's something I do want to know, and probably what more so the people that are listening to this want to know. How and why are you teaming up with ATW?
Well, I've known Paul for close to a decade now. Would you believe, since the Axie days? So
you too, you poor bugger.
There's a lot of sharks in this industry. Let's be honest, as you guys know, and that's on both sides. There's a lot of sharks as brokers, and there's a lot of terrible educational providers. But too often it's just about short-termism and getting a quick buck. But I think one thing that Paul and I really agree on is actually genuinely wanting clients to do better. And no one believes that more than Paul. So just like you say, all the brokers offer this, they say the best this or that. I really do mean it with Paul. He wants what's best for traders, and he actually gives a damn and is trying to support them on an ongoing basis, and trying to flip that model and bring some light to the darkness that's been in there. Plus, we happen to support the All Blacks together, so that's a bonding thing too.
Without putting on the spot, mates, with our guests, we really like to encourage them to treat our audience in some way or fashion. And again, I don't want to put you on the spot, but have you bought anything along, any goodies in the bag for our guests today, or that's you?
All right, well,
our audience today.
I am reluctant to give out bonuses, but especially when we offer such a low commission rate. But off the top of my head, and my team's probably going to kill me tomorrow, but if a client signs up this week via ATW through Fusion, I'll give you 20 free trades up to 20 lots. So it's about $90 of free commissions. How about that?
Nice.
That sounds pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
New clients only, though. I'm afraid you're out.
Oh, bugger. I'm gone already.
I might start an account.
Well, there you go. Exactly.
Yeah, you're in, Ash. We can pair up there.
There you go, Ash. You're going to rebate the comms.
Nice.
Now, guys, if you want to take advantage of that, and you haven't already done so, we've told you a couple of times throughout the show that you need to join. You need to join the group, the Telegram group, and that Telegram group can be found at Online Trading Profits, right? So that offer that Phil has just given you, I'm pretty sure will be up there very, very shortly if it's not there already. So get in there and take advantage of that. Phil, thank you so much for the offer.
Pleasure.